The galaxy was never truly silent. Stars burned, planets turned, and fleets of alien empires roared across the void. But there was a kind of silence that lived beneath all of it. The silence of arrogance, the silence of certainty. The great alien. Civilizations believed they already knew everything about their neighbors. They believed humanity was nothing more than a weak and scattered people, a race with no power, no great fleets, no throne among the stars. For centuries, the mighty alien empires laughed when the name of Earth was spoken. They mocked the small colonies humans tried to build. They called them fragile and short-lived. They saw humans only as workers, as prey, as a people who were lucky to even exist in council halls and war rooms. Aliens spoke of humanity with a smile, never with fear, never with respect. But deep within the cold corners of space, humanity kept its silence. Transmissions from human systems were quiet and heavily encrypted. No one could read them, no one could guess their meaning. Strange signals moved like whispers across the void, and the more curious empires tried to break them, the more they failed. Their machines returned with errors. Their spies vanished without answers. Still, no one cared. They thought humans were simply strange, secretive, but harmless. In the dark bars of trade stations, rumors began to grow. Some spoke of fleets that had gone missing when they crossed too close to human space, but most laughed it away. Pirates, black holes, accidents, they said. What could fragile humans do to mighty warships? So the stories were ignored, until a merchant vessel limped back from the edge of Sol, its crew pale with fear. They whispered of shadows larger than mountains drifting in the void, silent, unmoving, watching. The galaxy shrugged, dismissing it as drunken talk. Among the stars, arrogance is heavy. The proud do not listen to the weak. So when humanity stayed quiet, the empires thought it was submission. They believed silence meant fear. But silence has many shapes, and humanity's silence was not born of weakness. It was born of patience. In secret, hidden behind veils of technology older than the empires could imagine, humanity had been working. For generations they had been building. Their scientists, their engineers, their leaders had one purpose. They did not show their strength. They did not march their fleets through the galaxy. They built in the dark, shaping steel titans in shipyards hidden behind nebulae, powering them with engines no alien had ever seen. While aliens fought each other, burning worlds for pride, humanity built quietly. Their colonies lived under the shadow of empires, but beneath the surface of planets deep underground. Production never stopped. Resources were moved in secret. Asteroid fields became hidden forges. Entire moons became foundries, all cloaked by technology that blinded alien eyes. The few aliens who suspected the truth were silenced by their own leaders. No one wanted to believe the prey could build teeth sharper than the hunter. But whispers could not be fully buried. In some backwater ports, smugglers swore they had seen human ships vanish into nothing, not cloaked, not destroyed, but simply gone, as if they had stepped into another layer of reality. Others claimed that when they scanned certain regions, the stars themselves flickered, as if something vast blocked the light for a moment. Still, the empires laughed. They said humans were dreamers, storytellers. Their short lives made them desperate to matter. The galaxy had no patience for their fantasies, so the silence went on. But in the hidden chambers of human command, the silence was not empty. It was heavy with purpose. Officers walked along vast halls beneath the ground, their eyes sharp, their uniforms carrying the weight of secret duty. Above them, no alien eye could see what was being prepared. Entire fleets rested, silent and unseen, weapons humming with quiet power, armor thick as mountains. Each warship was more than a ship. It was a statement, a warning carved into steel, waiting for the day it would rise. And yet humanity did not move first. They watched, they waited. The galaxy had grown used to their silence. The empires had grown lazy in their belief. So when the first sparks began to show, when treaties were broken and human colonies were pushed too far, the silence began to crack. Somewhere on the edge of known space, a small alien fleet crossed the boundary. They expected an easy victory, an easy prize. Their captains laughed, their soldiers drank. They mocked the weakness of the humans they were about to crush. They never sent another message. Their signals went dark. The galaxy noticed, of course, fleets vanish all the time, but this was different. The silence that followed was not the same silence as before. This silence carried weight. It carried warning. Those who had once laughed began to frown. Those who had once dismissed humanity began to wonder. The galaxy was never truly silent. Stars still burned, planets still turned, fleets still roared, but somewhere deep beyond sight the real silence stretched. A silence that held giants in waiting, and soon, that silence would break. And when it did, the galaxy would learn that humanity had never been weak. Humanity had only been waiting. The council chamber of the alien coalition was filled with cold light and sharper words. Towering figures from proud empires gathered around a massive table of crystal and steel. Their voices were laced with arrogance. For centuries they had ruled the trade routes, enslaved the weak, and crushed those who resisted. Humanity was next on their list. To them, Earth was nothing but a fragile world with small colonies scattered like crumbs across the stars. A tall figure of the Creeth Dominion slammed his clawed hand on the table. The humans refuse tribute again. They hide behind their silence. They think we will forget. His voice echoed with fury. Nearby, the sleek envoy of the Valoran Empire sneered. Perhaps they think silence will save them, but silence cannot buy survival. Others laughed, mocking the thought of humans standing strong. But not all laughed. A few whispered quietly of fleets that had gone missing near human space, warships that had sent no last signal, no trace of wreckage. Some suspected hidden weapons. Others spoke of strange shadows moving among the stars. Still, the coalition dismissed these warnings. Pride was louder than caution. A vote was cast. The decision was clear. Humanity would pay or humanity would be broken. The coalition prepared a demand. They sent their finest diplomats, armored not only in words but in fleets that hovered close by, weapons primed. Humanity was expected to bow, to kneel, to surrender what little they had. On Earth, the human council listened calmly. The message from the alien coalition played in the great chamber. Towering holograms of alien leaders sneered down upon them, demanding resources, demanding surrender, promising safety only if humanity gave up its freedom. The humans sat still, not trembling, not angry, simply quiet. At last, one human diplomat stood. His voice was calm but heavy with meaning. The treaty you broke was signed in good faith. You pressed your fleets where they had no right to go. You think silence is weakness. You think patience is fear. But you have made a mistake. The aliens watching laughed. They saw no armies behind him, no massive warships in orbit. They saw only Earth, blue, fragile, small. They turned away in arrogance, but something stirred. Not in the council halls, but across the stars for humanity's silence was beginning to shift. Ships that had waited in shadows hummed to life. Engines whispered awake. Steel titans hidden behind clouds of gas began to drift toward secret rendezvous points. The hidden fleet was not yet revealed, but its heartbeat began to echo. The coalition, unaware of what truly stirred, pressed harder. They sent fleets closer to human colonies, testing, pushing. Their commanders reported small human ships retreating, refusing to fight, and this only fueled their arrogance. One admiral of the Krell Dominion wrote back to his lords, "The humans will not resist. They scatter like frightened. Pray soon their silence will end in screams." But he never sent another message after that. His entire fleet vanished, their signals cut off mid-transmission. Whispers began to crawl through the galaxy. One fleet lost. Might be an accident. 2 fleets gone without trace was something darker. The coalition brushed it off in public, but behind closed doors, fear began to move like smoke. Still, their pride was too heavy. They demanded more. They gathered an even greater force. One meant not just to test, but to crush. In the great capital of the Valoran Empire, alien citizens gathered in vast squares. They cheered as their rulers announced humanity's coming defeat. Massive banners of conquest hung across cities. Warships filled the skies, and yet far away among asteroid belts and nebulae, humanity's silence deepened. Their fleets gathered quietly, enormous shadows drifting unseen. Captains stood ready, their orders clear. Meanwhile, in human colonies across the stars, ordinary people felt the tension. Miners on Mars looked up at the night sky and whispered of war. Farmers on distant moons wondered if they would see alien fleets descend. But the human military said little. Their commanders spoke with calm voices. Do not fear, do not panic, trust in what is waiting. No one explained, but their eyes carried confidence that words did not. The coalition prepared its final demand. They sent one of their most decorated envoys, a golden-skinned diplomat from the Velaran Empire. He stood in the human council chamber, his voice dripping with mockery. Submit now, humans, give us your resources, give us your colonies. And we will grant you mercy. Resist and you will be erased from the stars. The human representative leaned forward, his eyes steady, his tone soft. You already broke the treaty. You already stepped too far, and now you stand here demanding mercy. But mercy is not yours to give. For a moment the chamber was quiet. The alien envoy's smile faded. He sensed something beneath the words, something vast and dangerous. Then came the whisper, a message carried on strange signals across the galaxy. Short, sharp, and encrypted. Most could not read it, but those who did felt their hearts tighten. 2 words burned through the darkness. Too late. In that instant, the silence of humanity changed. It was no longer the silence of patience. It was the silence before the storm. Fleets that had waited unseen began to move. Stars flickered as massive shadows shifted. The galaxy, that once mocked humanity, began to feel a weight pressing down. They could not see it yet, but they felt it, and deep inside they knew. The humans had never been weak. They had only been waiting, and now the waiting was over. Across the galaxy, fleets moved like great rivers of steel, thousands of ships gliding, through the endless dark, proud banners of alien empires shining from their hulls. But one by one, those rivers began to dry. Ships that crossed the border of human space never returned. Their signals cut off mid-sentence, their weapons silenced, their mighty engines gone cold. Entire armadas disappeared into the void as if swallowed whole. At first, the empires laughed. They told themselves it was pirates, cosmic storms, or accidents. The galaxy was vast and dangerous after all, but the laughter grew thinner with each vanishing fleet. 1,000 warships here, 2,000 there, and still no trace, no wreckage, no survivors. It was as if the void itself had taken them. In the throne world of the Krell Dominion, rulers pounded their fists on stone tables demanding answers. Their spies returned with nothing. Their scouts dared not go too far. One captain who had escaped with a single corvette swore he saw shadows, the size of cities drifting among the stars, larger than anything the galaxy had ever built. His report was mocked, called madness, but in his eyes there was no lie. On trade stations, whispers turned to fear. Smugglers spoke of black sectors, near Sol where no signals escaped. Merchant ships that strayed too close came back shaken, crews pale and silent, speaking only of lights that moved like eyes in the dark. In smoky taverns, traders spoke quietly. The humans are hiding something we should not see. But when the words reached the ears of rulers, they laughed. Humans? Hiding fleets? Impossible. Yet the silence grew heavier. It pressed on every empire. In the Valoran Empire, palace guards trembled as news of another lost fleet arrived. The Empress threw her goblet across the chamber, her voice breaking with rage. Find them! Find the humans! Tear their colonies apart if you must! But even her admirals hesitated. None wanted to send their fleets into the same darkness where so many had already vanished. Still, the galaxy's pride would not allow retreat. The coalition empires believed they were unshakable. They had enslaved entire races, broken countless rebellions. How could one small human race defy them? They convinced themselves the disappearances were tricks, perhaps mines, hidden weapons, ambushes, but never fleets, never warships, never giants. And then came the survivors. A shattered alien cruiser drifted back from the edge of human space, its hull torn, its crew half dead. The few who lived raved. Like broken minds, they spoke of ships so vast they blotted out the stars, of weapons that ripped through entire squadrons in a single strike, of engines that hummed like storms. The galaxy laughed at them at first, calling them mad, but when the wreckage was examined, The laughter died. The wounds on the cruiser were not from any known weapon. In the council halls of the coalition, arguments roared. Some demanded to retreat. Others demanded to attack with even greater numbers. The proudest voices won, they always won. Pride is a heavy chain, so a new fleet was raised, larger than any before. 3,000 warships gathered, battleships, cruisers, carriers, all marching toward human space like a tide of fire. They thought numbers would crush the silence. But humanity was not idle. Deep within hidden shipyards, entire planets disguised as barren rocks. Titans stirred, engines of steel awakened. The hidden fleet had waited long enough. Their weapons gleamed with silent fire, their armor thicker than mountains. They were not small patrol ships, not fragile colonies. They were giants, forged in secrecy for a single purpose. And as the coalition's fleet approached, the humans moved their pieces into place. Out in the border stars, the alien fleet advanced. Their commanders laughed in arrogance. The humans cannot face this. How they said, they will run, as always. And for a time it seemed true. The human colonies near the border sent no resistance. Their people evacuated quietly, their skies left empty. The aliens pressed forward, hungrier, prouder, their weapons charged, their soldiers eager for blood. Then, in the silence of space, the stars began to blink. One by one, shadows larger than anything the aliens had ever seen slid from the dark, enormous hulls glowing faintly with power, kilometer-long, ships that seemed like drifting mountains of steel. They did not roar, they did not announce. They simply appeared, filling the void, and the alien fleet froze. For the first time in generations, the Great Coalition felt fear. The commanders who had mocked humans now stared at shapes that dwarfed their own flagships. Weapons hummed across the void, slow and steady, as if the giants were not rushing but waiting, daring, watching. The alien admirals gave orders. They fired. A storm of energy, missiles, beams, everything they had. But the shadows did not fall. Their shields glowed, their armor burned, yet they moved forward, relentless. One of them fired once, just once, and an entire alien squadron was erased, gone in a burst of silent light. Panic tore through the alien ranks. Captains screamed, soldiers prayed, the commanders demanded order. But the truth had already sunk in. This was no hidden trap, no minefield, no trick. This was power, raw and undeniable, the kind of power only silence could hide, the kind of power the galaxy had never expected from humanity. And as more shadows emerged from the dark, spreading across the stars, the galaxy realized a truth it had ignored for too long. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had been silent. Silent while it built giants. Silent while it forged weapons that could tear empires apart. And now the silence was broken. The hidden fleet was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy had waited for this moment without even knowing it. On every world, in every empire, eyes turned toward Sol, the ancient home of humanity, a place long mocked as fragile, backward, unworthy of fear. Now it was the stage for a confrontation that would either crush the humans forever or reveal the secret that had shaken whispers across the stars. The alien coalition had gathered their might, a fleet so vast it filled the void. Thousands of warships, carriers, and dreadnoughts formed into perfect lines of steel, their weapons gleaming like suns, their commanders proud, their soldiers chanting of victory. They had come to end the silence, to shatter Earth and claim the spoils, billions across the galaxy, tuned into the broadcast feeds, eager to watch the fall of a forgotten world. The first images showed Earth itself, blue and green, quiet and small beneath the endless dark. No great defenses could be seen, no fleets in orbit, only silence. The galaxy's rulers laughed. Their voices carried across the networks. Look at them, still hiding, still weak. And in that laughter there was hunger. But then something shifted. The cameras caught a flicker, not in the planet, but in the stars behind it. Lights that should have been steady bent for a moment, as if something enormous had moved across them. The alien commanders dismissed it as static, a trick of sensors. But then another shadow appeared, and then another. The silence of space deepened. Alien soldiers who had mocked humans only moments before now gripped their controls tighter, their eyes fixed on the dark, and then the dark moved. From behind the shadow of Saturn, Titans emerged, ships larger than anything ever seen in known history. Their hulls stretched for kilometers, layered in black and silver armor. Their engines burned like quiet storms. Their weapons bristled with power that hummed low but endless. One by one they rose, massive, calm, unstoppable. Gasps filled the alien fleets. Pride cracked into fear. The commanders barked orders, trying to steady their soldiers. Hold your line, they are only ships. But the truth was written across every sensor, every scan. These were not only ships, they were mountains forged into war, silent giants that had been waiting in the dark. The galaxy held its breath as the first of the human warships passed into the open, its name etched in steel letters across its side. HFS Valiant. Behind it came others. HFS Retribution. HFS Dawnfire. Each name burned like prophecy. Each ship moved with precision, their formations flawless. Alien admirals ordered scans, desperate to believe the humans were bluffing, but the numbers screamed the truth. Each ship carried enough firepower to rival an entire alien fleet. Their shields glowed with energy levels no one thought possible, their weapons locked with quiet patience, not rushing, not afraid. The galaxies, billions watched in silence. The laughter that had filled the networks turned to stunned whispers. Impossible. How did they build this? How long have they hidden this? Merchants on faraway stations clutched their screens tighter. Slaves in alien minds lifted their heads with hope for the first time. And rulers who once mocked humans now felt the weight of fear settling on their thrones. Then, without a word, the coalition fired. A storm of plasma, beams, and missiles filled the void, a wall of destruction that no fleet in history had survived. Billions across the galaxy expected the human giants to fall, but the Titans did not crumble. Their shields rippled, their armor burned, but they kept moving forward, silent and calm. The HFS Valiant answered first. Its main cannon glowed like a rising sun. A beam of light split the dark, and where once an alien squadron had flown, nothing remained. Not wreckage, not survivors, only silence. Gasps echoed across the galaxy. Entire empires watched in disbelief. Alien captains shouted. Their fleets tried to regroup, but the humans did not pause. Their warships moved as one, cutting through lines with precision, missiles that split apart and hunted their targets, railguns that tore through cruisers like paper, beams that melted dreadnoughts into molten fragments. The galaxy was forced to watch as the proud coalition, the fleet meant to crush Earth, was shattered piece by piece. Each alien ship that burned was a message written in fire. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had been silent because it was building this moment. And through it all, the humans said nothing. Their comms were dark, no taunts, no demands, only the steady march of steel and flame. The silence that had once been mocked now became terror, because silence no longer meant weakness. Silence meant power. On distant worlds, alien rulers trembled in their halls. If this is what they reveal, what are they still hiding? One whispered. Others argued whether to beg for peace or prepare for war. But no answer felt safe. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's thrones felt fragile. As the last of the alien ships broke formation and fled, the human warships did not chase. They simply stopped, floating like mountains among the stars, watching, waiting. Their silence louder than any victory cry, the broadcast feeds cut to static. But the image of those giants remained burned in every eye. That night across the galaxy, no one slept. Rulers whispered in fear, slaves whispered in hope, and merchants whispered of profit. But all whispers carried the same truth. Humanity had unveiled its hidden fleet, and the galaxy would never laugh again. The coalition fleet had marched toward Earth with songs of victory, but now those songs had turned to screams. The first clash had shattered their pride, and yet, desperate admirals still pushed forward. We are more, we are stronger. Their giants cannot stand against thousands, they shouted, their voices trembling even as their hands shook. The alien warships formed into new lines. Thousands of plasma cannons lit the dark. Missiles fired in storms. Beams cut through the void like rivers of fire. The sky above Earth became a storm of weapons. Every world across the galaxy tuned in to watch, hoping to see the human titans fall, but the titans did not fall. The human fleet advanced slowly. Like mountains walking forward, their shields drank the storm. Their armor burned, yet they pressed on without hesitation. The HFS Valiant led the charge, its massive guns glowing with steady fury. Behind it, HFS Retribution and HFS Dawnfire moved in perfect formation. Not a single step broken, not a single move wasted. Then humanity struck back. The silence broke into fire. Railguns launched slugs at near light speed, tearing through dreadnought hulls like they were made of paper. Missiles unfolded in mid-space, scattering into swarms that hunted down their targets with cold precision. Beams of light carved through alien carriers, splitting them into fragments that drifted like broken bones. Alien soldiers screamed in panic, their comms filled with chaos. Shields failing, hull breach. Entire squadrons vanished in bursts of light. Admirals tried to call for order, but their words drowned in terror. One alien commander whispered to his crew, "This is not war, this is execution." Billions watching across the galaxy could not believe their eyes. Empires that had mocked humans now sat in silence. Citizens who had laughed at Earth now stared wide-eyed. Slaves on forgotten worlds whispered in awe. The humans fight for real. They fight like gods. Even neutral traders, hardened by greed, felt their throats tighten as they realized where true power lived. The coalition fleet broke and reformed, throwing everything they had: desperate maneuvers, suicide charges, traps meant to corner the human warships. But each tactic failed. The humans moved like one mind, one purpose, their warships sliding into new formations, covering each other with impossible coordination. It was as if they had rehearsed this battle for generations. The HFS Retribution unleashed a barrage that cut through an entire wing of alien cruisers, each shot precise, no wasted fire, no mercy. Nearby, the HFS Dawnfire turned its massive cannons on an enemy flagship. With a single glowing blast, the alien vessel shattered in half, its fragments spinning away into the void. Fear began to spread faster than commands. Entire alien crews abandoned their posts. Some ships turned and fled without permission, their admirals screaming curses. But fear was stronger than loyalty, stronger than pride. One alien emperor watching from afar clenched his claws until blood dripped. "They are breaking us," without speaking a word, he whispered. Still, the battle raged, the void lit with fire and death. But with every passing moment, the truth became clearer. This was not a fight between equal powers. This was a slaughter. The Coalition's great fleet, once the pride of the galaxy, was being unmade ship by ship. Each human strike was a hammer blow against centuries of alien arrogance. In the chaos, one alien captain transmitted live across the galaxy, his face pale with terror. "We cannot win. Their weapons cut through everything. Their ships are too many, too strong. We are..." His voice vanished as his ship exploded in light. Billions who watched held their breath, for the first time realizing the truth in his words. The human fleet did not celebrate. There were no victory shouts, no taunts, only silence. Their warships advanced with the calm of predators. Efficient, merciless. They had no need to brag. Their actions spoke louder than any words, and every empire in the galaxy heard it. By the end of the battle, thousands of alien ships burned. Their wreckage drifted across the void like a graveyard. Only fragments of the great fleet remained. The survivors fled in panic, scattering to their home systems, their messages filled with fear, their once proud voices trembling. We faced the humans and we begged for mercy. Earth still spun below, untouched, unbroken. The blue planet glowed in peace beneath the shadow of giants. The Coalition had come to erase it, but instead their pride had been erased. The galaxy that had laughed now stared in silence. On distant worlds, rulers huddled in fear, wondering if humanity would stop at defense or march outward to claim the stars. In the dark corners of the galaxy, slaves whispered with hope. "If they can fight the empires, maybe we will be free." and merchants whispered of new power, trade with the humans, or be crushed. But in the command chambers of the human fleet, no joy was shown. Their officers moved with quiet precision, their eyes cold, their voices calm. The battle was only the beginning. Humanity had revealed its giants, and now the galaxy knew. Silence no longer meant weakness. Silence meant war, and humanity had only just started to speak. The galaxy trembled in the aftermath of the battle. The wreckage of the coalition fleet still drifted like a graveyard around Seoul, fragments of alien pride floating silent in the dark. The broadcast of humanity's victory had reached every corner of the stars. There was no hiding it, no twisting the story. The empires that had once mocked Earth now sat in silence, their thrones colder than ever before. In the Krell Dominion, the warlords gathered in their stone halls, the air heavy with the scent of fear. Their voices were not full of rage this time, but of doubt. We sent our greatest fleets, and they were broken like glass, one muttered. Another slammed his fist on the table. This is impossible. No one builds ships like that. No one hides such power. But even as they argued, they knew the truth. Humanity had done it, and they had no answer. On the jewel worlds of the Valoran Empire, the Empress herself stared at the recordings again and again. Her golden eyes narrowed. The human warships moved with such precision, such confidence, she whispered. These are not fleets built for defense, these are fleets built for conquest. Her ministers bowed, trembling. One dared to speak. Perhaps we should beg for peace. Her gaze turned sharp and silence fell, but the thought lingered in every mind. The Shalari Consortium, masters of trade and deceit, felt panic in their vaults. Credits and wealth meant nothing if the humans decided to close their borders. Merchants whispered that trade routes through Sol would soon belong only to humanity. Smugglers bragged they would never deal with Valoran or Krell again, only with the humans, for only humans had shown power enough to make the galaxy tremble. But it was not just rulers and merchants who felt the change. On countless slave worlds across the galaxy, whispers spread like fire. Slaves in the mines of Krell lifted their heads and smiled through the dust. The humans fought the empires, and the empires lost, they said, in Valoran arenas where countless beings had been forced to fight for alien amusement. The slaves began to chant quietly, "Humanity, humanity." Their masters struck them down, but the chants never stopped. Fear ruled the thrones now, even in the councils where pride once reigned. Alien emperors and queens shouted to their admirals, "Build greater fleets, double the armies, strengthen our borders." But deep down they knew it would not be enough. Their shipyards could not match the scale of the human titans. Their weapons could not pierce human armor. Their formations could not resist the calm precision of the silent fleet. Humanity did not chase them, and that was worse than conquest. The great human warships simply remained at the edge of Seoul, silent, unmoving, watching. And in that silence, the galaxy heard a louder message than any speech could give. Humanity did not need to strike again. Humanity simply waited. And the fear of what they could do was heavier than the fire of what they had done. In the Valoran throne hall, the Empress called her council once more. "If the humans move outward, our empire will fall," she said, her voice sharp. "We must act. We must offer something before they decide to take everything." Her generals argued for war. Her merchants begged for peace. Her spies whispered of betrayal. But none agreed. None dared take the first step, and so paralysis gripped the halls of power. Meanwhile, in the hidden chambers of human command, the silence was not fear but focus. Human officers reviewed the battle, their voices calm, their faces steady. They did not celebrate. There was no cheering, only quiet nods and firm plans. For humanity knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The empires were broken but not destroyed. Pride can recover, arrogance can rebuild, and humanity would not allow the galaxy to forget what had been revealed. One by one, human fleets began to move again, not openly, not in grand marches but in shadows. Titans slid through nebulae, cruisers moved through asteroid belts, carriers hid behind dead moons. They did not attack, not yet, but they positioned themselves across key points of the galaxy, watching trade, routes monitoring border systems. The message was clear. Humanity's reach was spreading. Their silence filled the stars. In the galaxy's underworld, fear turned into respect. Smugglers refused to raid human colonies. Pirates avoided Sol entirely. Mercenaries turned down contracts. Against humans, not out of loyalty, but out of terror. Fight the humans, they laughed bitterly. That's suicide. Even the boldest warlords kept their distance. The galaxy itself seemed to shift. Where once the Krell Dominion had ruled with iron claws, their fleets patrolling trade lanes, now their ships turned inward, guarding their own worlds. The Valoran Empire, once proud of their golden carriers, now kept them close to their capital. None dared to expand. None dared to press outward. Because in the dark, they all imagined the same thing. A human warship drifting unseen, its weapons ready, and so the thrones of the galaxy began to shake, not with rebellion, not with invasion, but with the weight of silence. Humanity had revealed just enough to shatter certainty, just enough to make even the strongest empires doubt. But humanity was not finished. Their silence had a purpose. It was not only to protect, not only to warn, it was to prepare. For the galaxy had not yet begged. The galaxy had not yet bent its knees, and humanity knew that sooner or later, the rulers of the stars would test them again, and when that day came, there would be no mercy. The thrones were trembling, the crowns felt heavy, and across the stars the question grew louder in every hall, every market, every slave camp. What will humanity do next? The galaxy waited, but humanity did not answer. Not with words, only with silence. And that silence was more terrifying than war. The galaxy had grown quiet, but it was not peace. It was the silence of fear, of rulers who no longer trusted their fleets, of generals who no longer trusted their weapons, of empires that no longer trusted their own strength. In every palace, on every throne world, the same question whispered like poison. What will the humans do next? The coalition had already collapsed. Their greatest fleet shattered, their banners burned in the dark. Yet their prideful rulers could not accept the truth. Some sat in their war rooms, clawing at maps and star charts, desperate to find a weakness in the human fleet. Others locked themselves in their chambers, whispering about secret alliances, betrayals, and assassinations. But none of them dared to act, not openly. In the grand halls of the Valoran Empire, the Empress called her advisors, her golden robes dragging across the floor as she paced. "We cannot fight them," she said coldly. "Our ships cannot match theirs. Our soldiers tremble at the name of their titans. We must offer peace before they march into our skies." Her generals bristled. Some argued for more fleets, others for hidden weapons. But the Empress silenced them with a glare. Deep down, even the proudest of her warriors knew the truth. On the throne world of the Krell Dominion, warlords gathered, their claws tapping against iron tables. One snarled, "Begging is weakness. We are hunters, not prey." Another replied bitterly, "Hunters do not throw themselves at lions." Their voices cracked with rage, but behind that rage was fear, and fear eats louder than pride. In secret councils across the galaxy, rulers gathered, their voices trembling in hidden chambers. "We must beg," one said. "If we do not, we will be destroyed." Another hissed, "Begging will only make them stronger, but fighting will kill us faster." Arguments erupted. Accusations flew. Some swore to plot betrayals. Others swore to send envoys. But none dared to ignore humanity, because ignoring humanity now meant death. And still, the humans said nothing. Their fleets hovered in silence, titans drifting like mountains among the stars, their weapons dormant, their signals quiet. No threats, no speeches, no demands, only silence. And that silence pressed heavier than any ultimatum. Across the slave worlds, hope spread like wildfire. In the dust-filled mines of the Krell Dominion, workers whispered, "The humans will come. They will break our chains." In Valoran pleasure, palaces, servants dared to dream of freedom. If they could humble our Empress, maybe they will humble our masters. Guards struck them down, but hope was stronger than fear. And for the first time in generations, the slaves looked upward with courage. Merchants, too, shifted their loyalties. Trade guilds that once bent to alien thrones now whispered about sending offers to Earth. Smugglers spoke of human buyers who paid in weapons rather than credits. The black market swelled with rumors. If you want to survive the next century, you trade with humans, not against them. But for rulers, mercy was the only chance left. One by one, envoys were sent to Earth. Proud emperors and queens who had once demanded tribute now lowered their voices, offering peace, offering trade, offering apologies wrapped in pretty words. Yet behind every offer was the same plea. Spare us. The human council listened, quietly, their faces calm, their voices measured. They did not promise friendship. They did not promise mercy. They listened, and then they dismissed. For humanity knew the galaxy was still waiting for someone to test them, someone foolish enough to believe the Titans were only shadows. And so the fear grew. The galaxy began to divide. Some rulers begged for peace, others plotted in darkness. One Krell warlord whispered to his allies, "If we strike fast, together, perhaps we can break them before they march." But his allies turned away, too afraid to follow. The warlord's own soldiers whispered mutiny. None wanted to be the first to face humanity's guns. The Valoran Empress watched her fleets decay, her admirals reluctant to even drill near human borders, her people restless, whispering of human strength. In her rage, she smashed her throne, her voice breaking, "We are not rulers anymore. We are shadows in their silence." She knew the truth even if her lips refused to admit it. And in the stars, humanity watched, silent as always. Their fleets did not move to conquer. They did not rush to invade. They simply hovered, giants waiting. And in that waiting, the galaxy broke itself, fear spreading faster than war. The choice was clear to all: beg or be destroyed. Empires that had ruled for centuries now sent envoys crawling, their banners lowered, their voices shaking. "We will honor you. We will trade with you. Only spare us." But humanity gave no clear answer, no promises, no threats, only silence. And that silence was worse than rejection, because in silence there is no mercy. In silence there is only waiting. The galaxy bent its knees, some with pride broken, some with trembling fear, but all with the same truth in their hearts. Humanity had spoken without words, and the words were louder than fire. The rulers who once sat tall now sat bent. The thrones of the galaxy shook, and for the first time in history, the mighty begged, and humanity listened, silent and patient. The choice, still in their hands. The galaxy was not the same. The day humanity unveiled its hidden fleet, the stars themselves seemed to change. Once the thrones of alien empires had ruled with iron and pride, their fleets sweeping across the void unchecked. But now they trembled, beneath the shadow of human warships. The silence of Earth had shattered their illusions, and that silence had been replaced with fear. Across the galaxy, banners that once flew high were lowered. Rulers who had spoken with arrogance now whispered behind closed doors, their voices small, their power fragile. The Krell Dominion withdrew its fleets from foreign borders, dragging its broken ships back to guard its homeworld. The Valoran Empire sent envoys dressed in golden robes, but their eyes betrayed desperation. The Shalari Consortium began shifting trade routes toward Sol, declaring humanity a partner. But, in truth, they were only trying to survive. The galaxy had expected vengeance. They had expected the human titans to march outward and burn the thrones, to enslave as they had once been enslaved, to conquer as they had once been mocked. But humanity did not move like the empires. Humanity did not scream of conquest. Instead, their fleets hovered in silence, not claiming, not demanding, simply watching. That silence was heavier than fire. It weighed down on every throne, because no one knew what it meant. The rulers of empires feared invasion, but merchants saw opportunity and slaves saw hope. The galaxy could not decide whether humanity was savior or executioner, and in that doubt, everything began to change. In the slave pits of the Krell Dominion, workers dared to rise, whispering, "The humans will protect us." Overseers struck them down, but rebellion spread like flame. In Valoran arenas, where beings were forced to fight for amusement, the crowd no longer cheered with the same pride. Fear lingered in their eyes, for every time a name was called, they thought of humans. and the silence that had destroyed empires. Merchants began pouring into human space, their ships heavy with offerings, minerals, technology, slaves freed in hopes of mercy. Humanity accepted trade, but not chains. And so the old slave routes began to crumble. The economy of cruelty was breaking, replaced by the silent, steady hand of human order. But not all bowed with grace. Some rulers whispered rebellion. Plots of betrayal twisted in dark chambers. Krell warlords swore they would rise again. The Valoran Empress swore she would reclaim her pride. Yet even as they plotted, none dared to act. For every time they looked to the stars, they imagined those giants waiting, the silent fleet that could blot out suns. In the human council, debates stirred. Voices asked whether they should march outward, take the galaxy by fire. But the decision was patient. The elders spoke calmly. We will not rule with chains. We will not be as they were. But we will not bow. We will watch. We will wait, and if they rise against us again, then the stars themselves will burn. Their fleets remained in shadow, their silence louder than 1,000 speeches. On neutral worlds, beings once loyal to alien thrones began to switch allegiance. They wore human symbols on their clothes. They spoke human words in their markets. They sang songs of the silent fleet. Children looked to the skies and drew the shapes of human titans, mountains of steel drifting in the dark. Slowly, a new order began to form, not by conquest, but by fear and respect. Where once the Valoran Empire demanded tribute, now merchants offered it freely to humans. Where once the Krell dominion enslaved, now its chains weakened, for no empire wanted to invite human wrath, and yet humanity gave no speeches of empire, no banners of conquest. They did not seek thrones, they sought balance. Their silence was their strength, for in silence the galaxy never forgot. In silence the galaxy always wondered. The rulers, who once mocked humans, now prayed they would not return. The slaves who once despaired now dreamed that they would. The galaxy itself bent around humanity's will, not because of words but because of what had been shown. And in the far reaches of space, deep beyond sight, more giants waited. Entire fleets still hidden, their weapons silent, their armor gleaming in the dark. The fleet revealed its soul was only a fraction. The galaxy did not know this truth, but humanity did. They had prepared not just for one battle, but for forever. As the stars turned and the thrones trembled, a new truth carved itself into the galaxy's history. Humanity had been mocked, ignored, enslaved, dismissed, but in silence they had risen. In patience they had built, and in one moment they had broken the pride of empires. Now the galaxy bowed not out of loyalty, but out of fear, and humanity let them, for mercy was given once, but only once. The message was carved into every star. Humanity was here. Humanity was silent, and if challenged again, the galaxy would not be asked to beg. It would be forced to kneel. The new order of the stars had begun, and in its heart, humanity stood unshaken, watching, waiting and listening, silent as ever, but louder than all.